In a world where appearances often dictate influence, true power isn't solely about inherent talent, but about the art of persuasion. You might possess great skill, integrity, or wisdom, yet if you don't embody excellence, you risk being undervalued. Today, we confront the challenge of being overlooked. Today, you'll discover how to carry yourself with authority, even when your true status isn't yet visible. Let me pose a question, not as a confidant, but as a strategist. When you walk into a space, what impression do you leave? Do people recognize someone of substance, a presence worthy of regard, or do you simply blend into the background? Here's an uncomfortable truth: individuals don't perceive your inner self, they react to what you project. You could be brilliant, capable, and kind, but if your demeanor doesn't command attention, you'll be disregarded. If your stance doesn't convey strength, your words will be dismissed. And if your energy doesn't project confidence, your intellect goes unnoticed. This world doesn't operate on objective reality, it thrives on perception. And that perception, your projected image, is the instrument by which you either ascend to prominence or remain unseen. The individual who grasps this doesn't plead for respect, they embody it. They don't enter a room hoping for approval, they enter as if they inherently belong. And, most remarkably, even if they haven't earned this confidence, it's often bestowed upon them. This is the curious nature of perception. It isn't always fair, nor does it always reward genuine merit. It often favors the performance. You've witnessed it, haven't you? The average person who exudes kingly confidence, the boisterous individual who rises to leadership, the charming deceiver who gains loyalty. Meanwhile, the truly gifted often remain in the shadows, waiting to be acknowledged, assuming the world is inherently just. It isn't. Perception is influence, because perception shapes reality. People don't delve deeply, they don't investigate thoroughly. They accept what they observe. If you present yourself as powerful, they will treat you as such. If you betray even a flicker of uncertainty, they will sense vulnerability and exploit it. Power isn't merely acquired, it's enacted. The person who moves deliberately, speaks thoughtfully, and maintains unwavering eye contact is often perceived as an authority, even if they are still learning. Why? Because we are instinctively drawn to signals of dominance. It's ingrained in us, we are still primal beings, despite our modern attire and technology, often believing ourselves to be purely rational. You might think, but what if I'm just pretending? What if I'm not genuinely self-assured? And to that, I say, excellent. That's how every significant endeavor begins. The outward act initiates the internal transformation. When you carry yourself as if you are exceptional, when you move with the conviction of a leader, when you speak with an air of undeniable authority, people respond not to your inner state, but to your outward presentation. And with each such response, your cultivated image becomes increasingly real. The most impactful figures throughout history understood this. Julius Caesar didn't just conquer territories, he projected the aura of someone destined to govern Rome. Napoleon, though not physically imposing, carried himself with the stature of a giant. Even Machiavelli, not born into nobility, commanded the attention of rulers because his writings conveyed an undeniable voice of authority. So, when you enter a room, stop diminishing yourself. When you speak, don't soften your message. When you look at others, don't look up to them, look through them. There are inherent dynamics of influence embedded within the human psyche, and those who understand them navigate the world strategically. Those who don't become mere pawns. The impression you create, if skillfully maintained, gradually becomes accepted as truth. Over time, people will echo it: he's sharp, he's decisive, he must possess unique insights. And they will treat you with more deference than you might initially feel you deserve, until eventually, you truly embody it, you become what you project. This is the stark reality of perception. And if you resist this principle, if you insist on absolute authenticity, demanding that people recognize your inner goodness, your quiet integrity, your humble intentions, you risk being ignored, outmaneuvered, and overshadowed by those who never learned your specific knowledge, but instead mastered something far more potent. Not how to be, but how to appear, not how to earn, but how to command, not how to wait for recognition, but how to embody it before it's ever offered. Therefore, you must master this dynamic. Not later, not when you feel prepared. Now. Do you want me to continue by discussing confidence as a weapon? There's a reason the world acknowledges the confident individual, even when they seem to have little else to offer. It's because confidence isn't merely a trait, it's a strategic instrument. In the pursuit of influence, those skilled in wielding it often triumph, while the hesitant, the uncertain, and the overly contemplative are quietly lost to history. people don't primarily follow competence, they follow certainty. The person who speaks with conviction, even when mistaken, will almost always prevail over the one who wavers, even when correct. Understand the profound implication of that. You can be less qualified, less intelligent, less experienced, but if you carry yourself with unwavering self-belief, the masses will follow you. And the truly remarkable part: the crowd will defend you. They will rationalize your errors, they will reinterpret events to safeguard their conviction in your superiority. Because once someone accepts your strength, they will fight to maintain that illusion for their own psychological comfort. Confidence acts like a form of mental persuasion. When it's absolute, it overrides logic. This is why so many adept manipulators ascend to positions of power, why those with nothing but sheer ego often lead, while the truly gifted serve in silence. You've witnessed it, the overly confident individual who enters every room as if they own it. They capture attention, secure agreements, earn the very respect you worked for but never asserted. And you wonder why. You wonder why you consistently lose to seemingly less capable people. It's because they don't wait for validation, they validate themselves, and everyone else adjusts to that projected reality. Many believe that confidence should be based on facts, that it must be grounded in reality, and that you'll act confidently after you've earned the right. But that's not how influence functions. Power doesn't reward those who wait, it rewards those who assume. When you hesitate, people don't perceive you as cautious, they perceive you as weak. When you doubt yourself, people don't admire your humility, they sense you're vulnerable. And when you defer, apologize, or diminish yourself to avoid causing offense, they won't respect your politeness, they'll test your boundaries until there's nothing left of you. Confidence is a signal. It declares, I am dominant. I am not afraid of the consequences. I belong above you. And that signal, when broadcast with sufficient conviction, triggers submission in those who receive it. The human instinct is to submit to perceived strength, not necessarily actual strength, but the appearance of it. And nothing appears stronger than unshakable conviction. You must begin to view confidence as a general views a sword. It's not decorative, it's not merely ornamental. It's a tactical instrument for conquest. Without it, you lose battles before they even begin. With it, you win engagements you seemingly had no business fighting. And no, confidence isn't about being loud, it's about presence. It's not about arrogance, it's about certainty. It's about entering a situation already convinced of the outcome, and making others believe it too. When you speak like someone whose word is law. When you move as if the ground itself acknowledges your authority. When you make eye contact, never be the first to look away. These aren't just minor behaviors, these are rituals of psychological warfare. Every interaction is a negotiation of status, and if you don't assert your position, someone else will assert it for you, and you won't like where they place you. Let others waste time trying to prove themselves. You act as if you have nothing to prove, because you don't not if you carry yourself correctly. The projection will do the heavy lifting. The posture will sell the image. And the image will become the truth. The field of engagement isn't fair, but it is predictable. People want to follow someone who appears to know their direction. They want to be near certainty. They want to feel secure in someone else's conviction. And if no one else is offering that certainty, you must, even if you're unsure, even if you're afraid, even if you're improvising every single moment. You do not show that. You never show that. Because the moment you do, the spell is broken, and the predators begin to circle. Let me share a secret most men never grasp. The world doesn't know the truth about you, and what's more, it doesn't care. It knows what you present to it. It believes what you reiterate. It accepts what you insist upon, until it becomes reality. Reputation isn't born from fact, it's born from repetition, from performance, from the relentless discipline of presenting a version of yourself so consistently that others have no choice but to believe it. If you don't define who you are to the world, someone else will, and I assure you, they will define you to suit their narrative, not yours. This is the game every influential person plays. They craft a narrative, they control the image, they tell the world who they are before the world decides for itself. And once that image is established, it's nearly impossible to dismantle, because most people are mentally disinclined to investigate or analyze, they simply assume. So, the world you navigate, this society, these networks, these circles of power isn't evaluating your essence, they are reacting to your branding. You might be disciplined, but if you don't exhibit it, you're perceived as weak. You might be intelligent, but if you don't present it, you're overlooked. You might have immense potential, but if you don't command attention, someone else's mediocrity will overshadow your genius. Your true worth isn't solely what you possess internally, it's what you signal. That signal must be intentional, decisive, pronounced when necessary, subtle when it serves you better, but never left to chance. Think of every powerful individual you admire. What do you truly know about them? Not much. What you admire is the illusion, the carefully maintained narrative, the perception. They told the world, I am a visionary, and so they became one. They told the world, I am inevitable, and so they were. They told the world, I am untouchable, and whether they were or not, no one dared to test it. This isn't deception, it's design. You don't have to lie, but you do have to curate yourself, discarding traits that serve no strategic purpose. You have to amplify the qualities that command respect, and you must consistently reinforce your image until it becomes ingrained in the minds of everyone you encounter. Never offer the world the complete picture. Give them the version that solidifies your position. The politician smiles. The general stands tall. The ruler never flinches. It is theater, but theater backed by clear intent. And that theater shapes policies, moves forces, and influences history. You must learn to craft your personal myth. You must build a persona so clear, so sharp, so unmistakably dominant that others naturally gravitate around you. And you must never betray that myth, because if you do, they will remember your perceived weakness forever. Understand this, people don't follow the person who meticulously figures things out, they follow the one who already acts like they know. They don't serve the person who shows self-doubt, even if that doubt is wise, they serve the one who speaks with conviction, even if they're mistaken. And they don't fear the person who reveals vulnerability too soon, they fear the one who reveals nothing, letting others imagine their capabilities. That is power, allowing others to fill in the blanks with apprehension or ambition, while you say very little. But here's the common pitfall: most men try to earn recognition before declaring themselves. They wait for evidence, for confirmation, for permission. But power doesn't acknowledge humility, it rewards those who claim their space before anyone offers it. You don't wait to be recognized as the best, you tell the world you are. You move as if you are. You train your body, your vocal tone, your energy to convey it before your words do. And when people begin to echo it when they say, he's sharp, he's different, he's a leader, they are no longer describing you, they are repeating what you taught them to believe. This is the challenging truth: you are not just striving to be your best self, you are striving to be perceived as the best version of yourself. And those who grasp this dynamic early often dominate, because the world isn't waiting for objective truth, it's waiting for certainty. And certainty, repeated enough times, becomes history. There is one principle above all others, one force so subtle, so silent, yet so absolute, that it shapes the lives of both leaders and commoners: assumption. Not luck, not skill, not even intellect. Assumption. The individual who assumes they are powerful begins to act as if they are. The one who assumes they are irrelevant begins to fade, and here's the stark truth: the world will treat you exactly the way you believe it should. Because you don't become what is objectively true, you become what you accept. Every action you take, how you walk, how you speak, how you interact radiates from a core assumption, and that assumption writes your destiny. The person who assumes they are beneath others enters every room asking for permission to exist. They look down, they apologize for occupying space, they speak cautiously so as not to offend. And what does the world perceive? They see someone who should be overlooked. The world mirrors their own beliefs not because it's true, but because they broadcast it. Their posture declares, I am not a threat. Their silence implies, you are above me. Their doubt becomes a signal, and the world believes them. And so, they are disregarded, not because others are cruel, but because they allowed it through their own assumption. But then there is another kind of person. They assume they are the most formidable presence in the room. They assume their ideas matter. They assume others are drawn to their presence. And from that assumption, they move differently. They speak with authority. They look people directly in the eye. They occupy space without hesitation. And here's the fascinating part: people begin to treat them accordingly. Because once again, the world doesn't investigate you, it reflects you. And assumption is the script it reads from. Why do you think some men rise even when they offer nothing of substance? Why do you think people gravitate towards leaders who lack experience, skill, or wisdom? Because confidence isn't drawn from evidence, it is drawn from belief. And belief, when reinforced sufficiently, becomes reality, both internally and externally. You must ask yourself right now, what assumptions are you carrying? Do you assume people aren't interested in what you have to say? Do you assume you aren't worthy of commanding attention? Do you assume you must wait your turn, earn the right, stay in your place? These thoughts don't remain quietly in the background. They guide you, they define you, they shackle you. And worst of all, they are self-fulfilling. The person who assumes they will lose often does, because they play not to win, but to avoid failure. But the person who assumes victory before the game begins moves without hesitation. They take risks others avoid. They speak when others remain silent. And slowly, inevitably, the world begins to accept their assumption as fact. You don't need permission to act powerfully. You act powerfully, and the permission follows. You don't wait for people to recognize your worth. You behave as if your worth is already understood. And the key isn't arrogance, it's conviction. Conviction in your right to be heard, conviction in your presence, conviction in your destiny, regardless of your current circumstances. This is the difference between the leader and the leader. The leader doesn't wait for proof, they decide who they are, and the world responds. Your identity isn't waiting to be discovered, it is waiting to be declared. Every time you walk into a room, every time you speak, every time you hesitate or stand tall, you are sending a message. And that message comes directly from your assumptions. So the question becomes, what are you assuming right now? That people don't respect you. That success is for others. That you're not ready. Then you're right, because you've already begun to act it out. But if you assume you are the best, if you assume you are destined to lead, if you assume that power belongs to you not later, but now, then something begins to shift. Your voice deepens. Your posture solidifies. Your eyes stop seeking approval. And people sense it not because they know your story, but because they feel your certainty. And in a world filled with uncertainty, certainty becomes magnetic, dominant, unstoppable. You don't become powerful by chance, you become powerful by believing it long before anyone else does. And that belief, when worn like an impenetrable shield, makes you invulnerable. You wanted to know why the world overlooks you, why power seems to elude you, even when you strive diligently, adhere to rules, and demonstrate kindness. But the truth is stark, the world doesn't obey effort, it obeys presence. It obeys certainty. It obeys belief backed by decisive action, and now you comprehend. Act as if you are the best, not because you need to prove it, but because no one will believe it until you do. Carry yourself as if no one is superior to you, not to demean others, but to command the respect you've always deserved. Eradicate the weakness of self-doubt. Assume your power. Wear your confidence like a crown. And move like a person who knows the game belongs to them. Because once you stop asking for permission, once you stop apologizing for existing, once you stop waiting to become enough, that's when the world begins to acknowledge you, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Power isn't granted, it is assumed. And those who dare to assume it, rule.so. I'll ask you once, and only once, who are you going to be the moment this video concludes? The version of you that waits, hopes, hesitates? Or the version that acts as if they already are the best, because they know there's no one better? The answer determines everything.